Tough guy+era+trash+sweet pet+entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Meng Chun only found out after her death that her adopted mother had lost her bag, and her younger sister replaced her as the biological daughter of a research expert. However, she was framed by her foster mother and accused of being a mistress, and sold to a domestic violence man for torture and death. Once reborn, she angrily exposed the true face of her adoptive mother's family, demonstrating her combat effectiveness. Is the little girl using her name as a mistress trying to hit her head? Make you cry for help. Big brother wants to take her job. There's no door. Does the foster mother still want to design her to have sex with a violent man from a previous family? She caught her foster mother, daughter, and domestic violence man in bed with her backhand. What? Is there an unknown boss behind her who wants to kill her? Not afraid. She tore apart the best in one hand and pursued a career in the other, while also teasing a tough and versatile decathlon expert. Don't live too beautifully. But the big shot is actually a great hero who sacrificed early in his past life. Meng Chun expressed regret. Is it okay to only tease without taking responsibility? The big shot gritted his cheek and looked at me with a aggrieved expression. Comrade Meng, you've seen me naked, what do you think? Meng Chun. Chapter 1. True or false third party. You are listening at novel full.audio. Bang bang bang. You wave hooves crawling on other men's beds. Why don't you die? Open the door for me. The sharp and noisy sound made Meng Chun open his eyes in a daze, and he fell to the ground with one foot. Pain. After her death, she transformed into a ghost floating in this world, and surprisingly, she could feel the pain. Meng Chun struggled to hold on to the cabinet next to her and stood up, looking incredulously at the mirror on the old-fashioned washbasin stand. This was clearly her appearance at 18 or 19 years old. Is she reborn? The door was knocked with a loud bang, and the sharp and harsh sound continued, coming straight through the door. Meng Chun, you damn slut. You must die hard, dare to crawl into my man's bed. I'll tear your skin today, you naughty fox spirit. Meng Chun was instantly struck by lightning upon hearing these words, and she will never forget that day when she was slandered as a mistress who destroyed other people's families. After her death, she realized that the real mistress was her sister Meng Erni. Meng Erni couldn't bear the benefits given by the scumbag and started to entangle with him under her name. In her past life, her foster mother and sister Meng Erni proved to everyone that her style was not just a slut, and directly made her bear the blame, becoming a mistress that everyone shouted at. She was even sold to Chao Xinmin, who was addicted to domestic violence, for a dowry of 500 yuan. After she became pregnant, she was beaten to a miscarriage by this beast under the influence of alcohol. However, her foster mother slandered her for wanting to run away with a wild man, and deliberately did not want this child, causing her to be beaten to death by the angry Chao Xinmin. Unexpectedly, after her death, she became a ghost floating in this world. Watching her biological parents come to find her, it was Meng Erni who replaced her with a token and lived a better life than she could even imagine. At this moment, she realized that she was not picked up by her foster mother. She thought everything was fate, but it was they who pushed her step by step into the abyss. She dreams of crushing them to ashes. I didn't expect that God would treat her well and give her another chance. Since she can live a lifetime again, she must seek revenge. Meng Chun rushed towards the door in 3 steps and 2 steps, and suddenly opened the door that was about to collapse from being kicked. The woman with an angry face was about to pounce and grab her hair, and Meng Chun quickly grabbed her arm with his eyes and hands, tightly gripping her like iron pliers. Meng Chun will never forget this person until he dies, Li Meihua. Li Meihua saw Meng Chun's face clearly, and her face became even more ferocious and twisted in an instant. Her eyes were staring like cannibalistic, and her voice was sharp and piercing. You slut, you dare to steal someone and come to my house, you shameless fox spirit. I want you to die. Meng Chun fiercely shook off Li Meihua and said, "You have to speak with evidence. I don't even know the man from your family. There's someone else who got into your man's bed, and I'm foolish enough to be shot without even knowing." Li Meihua's plump face trembled with anger, her eyes bloodshot, and she glared fiercely at Meng Chun. "I wish I could peel your skin and drink your blood, and you dare to ask me for evidence. I personally asked my man's name from his mouth, which is Meng Chun." She flipped through her clothes and bags with hatred, took out the gold earrings, and threw them onto Meng Chun's face. "Evidence. I'll show you evidence. I'll let everyone in your courtyard know you, bitch. This is how I caught you in bed this morning and pulled you off your ear with my own hands. Do you think you ran away with your hair draped over your face, and I couldn't see your face clearly, so I couldn't find you?" Meng Chun tightly grasped the golden earring. In her past life, she was at a loss when she encountered this and was directly taken in a big pot. The earring never appeared from beginning to end, and Meng Chun almost burst into tears in excitement. Suddenly, a middle-aged woman wearing a green headscarf rushed over and slapped Meng Chun fiercely. She immediately jumped and cursed, "Unscrupulous fox spirit. You've been caught and raped in bed, and you dare to ask for evidence. I knew you were an unscrupulous person. You shouldn't have raised you in the first place. We've never had such a slut in our family before, so you must have carried this bad root." Turning her head, she smiled at Li Meihua, who wanted to kill, and said, "Big girl, you hit me. You hit this slut hard. She was picked up by me and has nothing to do with my family. It's okay to kill her. This kind of fox spirit who colludes with men should be killed. If I had known she was this shameless bastard, I would have killed her for you first, so that she wouldn't have had a chance to seduce your man." Meng Chun's face was burning with pain. She stared at her foster mother, Hao Hongmei, who was trying to beat her up in front of her, with hatred charging straight to her forehead but suppressing it. The fox spirit who colluded with men should be killed. Mother, please remember what you said and don't be reluctant to take action later. Hao Hongmei's face was taken aback for a moment. It was obvious that Meng Chun had dared to refute her, and her expression became even more vicious. Ha! Can't bear it. You want to eat shit, I can't see such a slut. I'll hit you one at a time. Meng Chun gave her a meaningful glance and stood in the center of the courtyard holding up his earrings, allowing everyone in the crowd to see clearly. Everyone, look. There is blood on the earrings when they were pulled off, and my ears have no scars at all. Most importantly, I have seen Erni wear these earrings with my own eyes. Li Meihua, who was originally fierce, was caught off guard by this incident, and suddenly felt a little confused. Hao Hongmei suddenly froze. Oh my! It's Erni's. A few days ago, I saw her putting on this display. That's it. It's exactly the same. No, Erni is the third girl. The onlookers in the courtyard chattered away in an instant, and Hao Hongmei glared at Meng Chun with hatred. She immediately crossed her waist and shouted, "What are you fools about? Meng Chun is the one who flirted with men, not our second daughter. Meng Chun, you little slut, you have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's courage, and you dare to talk to second daughter." Hao Hongmei forcefully pulled Erni out of the room, who remained silent, and spoke confidently, "Erni, did you think Meng Chun, this slut, stole these earrings from you a few days ago?" Erni's panic flashed across her face, and suddenly she saw everyone staring at her. Her expression changed and she quickly followed Hao Hongmei's words, "Mom, this earring was stolen by her. I've been looking for it for several days." Turning his head, he angrily cursed at Meng Chun and said, "Meng Chun, you stinky bitch. I saw with my own eyes that you couldn't get along well with men. You stole my earrings and were pulled off by someone else, and came to frame me. Why don't you die?" Meng Chun gave a cold smile and generously revealed his ears. "Be careful when you lie, you'll get punished. Show me clearly. I don't have any ear holes at all." How could I be pulled down by my own hands? It's actually you. Erni's originally proud face stiffened instantly, her eyes widened in shock. Suddenly, she panicked and covered her ears, wanting to run out. Meng Chun rushed straight towards Erni and grabbed her hair with a fierce force. Her earlobes were covered in blood scabs and blood was pulled out. She pulled hard so that everyone could see clearly. What are you running for? Look at the blood in your ears. The blood on these gold earrings is from your ears. It's you who got into the man's bed. It's not me. Erni was exposed all at once, wishing to cut Meng Chun to pieces. In a fit of anger, she picked up a nearby stool and smashed it at Meng Chun, saying, "You slut, you slandered me. You're on the brink of death." Pa! Meng Chun grabbed the bench with his backhand and slapped Erni in the face with all his strength. His face was filled with hatred, and she forcefully pulled open Erni's collar, revealing faint and ambiguous marks. She had a sarcastic expression on her face and said, "I slander you. Even people who are not blind can tell what this mark is on your body. If you want to slap the poop basin on my head, there's no door. What else do you have to say? Do you want to say that you're sneaking into a man's bed?" The courtyard exploded instantly, and it was self-evident what an unmarried girl had done. Looking at Erni, her eyes changed, and Hao Hongmei was even more shocked, her face flustered. Erni's face was greatly frightened, and she hurriedly covered her neck in an attempt to cover it up. Chapter 2. Beats You, Crying Dad and Calling Mom. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Meng Chun seized the opportunity to grab Erni's hair, slapped her a few times, but still couldn't help but tear at her mouth. "I asked you to use my name to seduce men, and you dare to frame me, saying I stole your earrings. Let me tear your mouth apart." She vented all her hatred from her past life. Ah! Erni screamed in pain, her face swollen high, and her mouth lost sight. Meng Chun pushed her directly to Li Meihua's side and provoked her, saying, "She hooked up with your man and even used you as a gun. If I were you, I wouldn't have finished breaking her leg today." Li Meihua, who was stunned, suddenly reacted and let out a loud cry. Her sharp and long nails fiercely grabbed Erni's face and said, "It's you. It's you, you scumbag. I'll tear your face apart, and I'll make you dare to seduce my man." Erni's face was instantly filled with fear as she called out to Hao Hongmei, "Mom, help me. Meng Chun, you slut, she's your sister. You malicious-minded thing, dare to incite outsiders to beat her, I'll kill you first." Hao Hongmei's face was grim with anger, her hands raised high, and Meng Chun directly gripped her arm. The hatred in her eyes could burn people to ashes. In their past lives, these mother and daughter, along with Li Meihua, beat her into a coma, and this devout woman spread rumors about her flirting with other men everywhere. She would never easily let them go. Meng Chun grabbed Hao Hongmei's hair and pulled her over. Hao Hongmei grinned in pain, her hair pulled down a lot, and her originally panicked face instantly twisted with anger. "You little beast." Meng Chun slapped her directly and said, "Who are you scolding? Look at the sluts you've taught. You said you can't see such sluts yourself. You hit them one by one. What are you still doing now? Hit them." The neighbor in the courtyard, who didn't mind the bustle, also coaxed and said, "Auntie Hongmei, we heard what you just said. Hurry up and take action. Your second daughter's heart is really dark." She used Meng Chun's name to do this shameless thing and fell on Meng Chun's head. It's fortunate she could think of it. Hao Hongmei felt as if she had been grilled on a fire, her eyes so angry that they could prick and make flames. She pointed frantically at Meng Chun and said, You. Meng Chun spoke very understanding and said, "Mother doesn't need to say, we both have a deep connection. I know you don't feel comfortable playing without tools, do you?" Meng Chun picked up the firewood stick from the side and stuffed it into Hao Hongmei's hand. He grabbed her hand holding the firewood stick and fiercely hit Erni's leg, saying, Mom's doing well. We have to break her leg, so she can't run out and flirt with men. Ah, it hurts. How dare you hit me? You hit this bitch. Meng Erni could not resist the storm of Li Meihua and dodged her orders to hit Li Meihua. Coincidentally, Hao Hongmei was holding a firewood stick in her hand. Li Meihua thought that Hao Hongmei was coming to hit her, so she kicked her and neither of the mother and daughter let go. Meng Chun also took advantage of the chaos and grabbed Hao Hongmei's hair, kicking her several times. I can't fight anymore, it's killing me. Oh my goodness, it hurts me so much. Hao Hongmei was in severe pain all over her body, tightly holding onto Li Meihua's foot. Li Meihua was also tired from the fight and spat at Meng Erni in disgust. Before leaving, she even spoke harshly, wait, this matter is not over. Hey, you can't leave. You beat us up like this. Without 50 yuan for medical expenses, you can't leave. Hao Hongmei sat on the ground with disheveled hair, tears and nose streaming down her face, crying and kicking her legs. It's all your fault for not being able to control men. How could you blame my Ernier? Ernier must have been instigated by that slut Meng Chun. The people in the courtyard couldn't bear it, and each person wanted to spray her to death. I said, Hao Hongmei, why do you always cling to Meng Chun? You raised the child you picked up and thought you were a kind-hearted person. I never thought you were this kind of person. Pooh. I really misread you before. No wonder Meng Chun, such a quiet little girl, was forced to behave like this by you. This child is also pitiful. No one spoke to her and scolded her, but Hao Hongmei suddenly started chatting up, while Meng Erni beside her rolled her eyes and was knocked out of anger. Hao Hongmei was so scared that she couldn't care anymore. She quickly shook Meng Erni and said, Erni, wake up. Erni, you can't leave your mother behind. Judging from this situation, Meng Erni really fainted, not just pretending. Meng Chunkai walked over disdainfully and dug out 2 yuan from Hao Hongmei, handing it to the neighbor. Could you please find a rack car to take my sister to the hospital? Thank you very much, he said. How could she let Meng Erni die easily? These mother and daughter have tormented her so much. Death is too cheap for her, Meng Erni. Chun, I didn't expect you to have such a kind heart. Who married you? That's really lucky for someone's family. No, it's not like Meng Erni who did such a shameful thing and threw us all away. Whoever marries will have bad luck. Upon hearing the words of the ants in the courtyard, Meng Chun shyly smiled and calmly accepted everyone's praise. Upon hearing these words, Hao Hongmei collapsed on the ground and collapsed in anger. However, Meng Erni was carried into the car in a coma, and Hao Hongmei could only hurriedly follow her to the hospital. Meng Chun said a few thank-you words to his neighbor before entering the house. As soon as she locked the door, she turned around and entered Hao Hongmei's room, rummaging through boxes and cabinets looking for her household registration book. In her previous life, Hao Hongmei directly registered her marriage with a domestic violence man using her household registration. She must move out her household registration in advance. Meng Chun wiped the sweat off his head, stood on the chair, and opened the small cabinet on the coat cabinet, which indeed contained his household registration book. She only realized when she took it out that it was still carrying a neatly folded and yellowed letter. As soon as she opened the paper and wrote it clearly in black and white, her biological parents paid for her temporary support by Hao Hongmei. Meng Chun's hands trembled slightly. It wasn't until her past life that she realized her biological parents were in a confidential unit. Throughout her life, she received a task and had to urgently hand her over to Hao Hongmei, who had been invited to take care of her. However, Hao Hongmei has been promoting since she was a child that she was picked up, making her grateful to the Meng family, selflessly dedicating herself to everything, and playing around with her. How could she not hate them? In this life, she must change her fate and never repeat the same mistakes. Meng Chun took a deep breath, put away the letter and household registration book, restored the house to its original state, went to the kitchen to stir-fry all the preserved meat that could only be eaten during the Chinese New Year, and had his first good meal from childhood to adulthood. Just after finishing her meal, with a loud bang, Hao Hongmei panted and pushed open the door, running in. The next second, a windy palm fiercely swung towards Meng Chun's face. "You scumbag! Did you just intentionally tarnish Erni's reputation? You, as a sister, should admit this matter for your sister and insist on confessing Erni. Now that Erni has been beaten and hospitalized, why are you so malicious? I must teach you a lesson." Meng Chun was a bit unsteady when she was beaten. She gritted her teeth tightly and without saying a word, ran to the kitchen to grab a pair of tongs and fiercely slapped Hao Hongmei's mouth. "Meng, Erni deserves it. Why should I admit it for her? From childhood to adulthood, I have been a cow and a horse for your family, and I don't owe you any. I saw that your mouth smelled so bad, so if you can't speak, just shut it up." Hao Hongmei's mouth was numb and painful from being beaten, and she trembled with anger. "It's your honor to be a cow and a horse for me. You can't escape in your lifetime. You dare to slap me in the mouth. Wait for me, I have a way to cure you." She rushed straight to the door and opened it, crying loudly in an instant. "Let's take a look, we've killed someone. I've raised a white-eyed wolf, and I kindly picked it up and raised it. Now, she's beating and cursing at me. It's really someone else's food that's not familiar with. I shouldn't have been kind from the beginning. Hao Hongmei, what's going on here again? Oh my, Director Wu, you have to make up your own mind for me. If you come later, I'll be beaten to death. Look at Meng Chun, this slut hit me in the mouth. The Women's Federation should quickly take her away and teach her a lesson." Meng Chun heard the sound at the door, his eyes turned, and he instantly made his hair look like a chicken coop. He quickly pulled out the sheets from the bed with his hands and feet, and hung them on the beam with his feet on the chair, tying them in knots. He pretended to kick the chair and was about to hang himself. Chapter 3. Snatching Jobs. There's no door. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh my goodness, the eldest daughter of the Meng family has been hanged. Hurry up, pull the child down. Hao Hongmei, with a strong momentum, led Director Wu, who was dressed neatly, to see this scene. Director Wu quickly screamed and shouted for someone to hold Meng Chun's leg and pull her off. "Girl, if you have any difficulties, our Women's Federation can help you. You can't seek death." Her messy hair, combined with the slap marks on her face, was more convincing than anything else. She sat on the ground and looked at Director Wu with tearful eyes, handing over the letter she had previously flipped through. "Director Wu, take a look. I feel aggrieved in my heart. Hao Hongmei said everywhere that I was picked up and asked me to work hard to serve them, often beating and scolding me. I only found out today that she takes the foster care money given by my biological parents every year and treats me like this. What's the point of my life?" Hao Hongmei's face turned pale as she saw the letter, and she waved her hands in a guilty and flustered manner. No, this letter was forged by her, not true. It was her who specifically calculated on me, she said. Director Wu tossed and turned as he looked at the yellowed letter. The signature and inscription couldn't be fake, and the women who had just pulled Meng Chun off also crowded over to watch the commotion. Oh. Seeing the money sent over every year, an aunt couldn't bear it for a moment and said, "What are you worth calculating? So much money is enough to support you, a big family. I see you have calculated Meng Chun enough, even if you said she picked her up and used her as a maid, and even scolded Meng Chun for nothing. It's fortunate that I really believed in her before. No, I really thought Meng Chun's character was not good, but Hao Hongmei still picked up the child and raised it. Who in our courtyard mentions her not saying a word of great kindness? It's really blind to see the wrong person." Upon hearing these words, Director Wu instantly stared and said, "Hao Hongmei. You're really not a good person. You're holding the money given by their parents and letting their daughters take care of your family both inside and outside. How could you be so calculating? You don't even have as much heart as honeycomb coal. How Hongmei suddenly panicked, which was different from what she thought. She pointed at Meng Chun and jumped 3 feet high in anger. Director Wu, even if I take the money, I have to take care of her so well without any credit. If she dares to hit me, you won't say anything. Before Director Wu could speak, Meng Chun's crying grew louder. I feel bitter in my heart. I haven't even asked her why she said I picked it up, but now she's slandering me for beating people. My biological parents do research, and Hao Hongmei is the heroic family member who persecuted her to the death. If your Women's Federation doesn't educate her, how can we women still believe in the Women's Federation in the future? That's right, Director Wu. Even if I really hit her, I deserve it. Hao Hongmei treated Meng Chun like this, and the rabbit would even bite when it's in a hurry. Many neighbors feel that they have been deceived by Hao Hongmei, and they will hate her to death. They all speak out in agreement. Meng Chun wanted this effect, and the tears on his face were like broken beads, which made him cry even more wrongly. Fuck your mother. You all shut up. Hao Hongmei was about to go crazy with anger, and Director Wu was clearly called to stand up for her. How could there be such a reason? She lay on the ground relentlessly, just about to throw a tantrum. Director Wu was furious as he listened to these words and pulled Hao Hongmei up from the ground. Hao Hongmei, your behavior is really bad. You should come with me now, he said, who didn't know that joining the Women's Federation required education and confession at the conference. Not to mention losing face 10 miles away, work may not be guaranteed, and Hao Hongmei was instantly scared to the death. Meng Chun wept and wiped his tears on the side, his eyes full of gratitude. Director Wu, it was you who saved me. It's really great for the Women's Federation to have you. You are really a good leader who serves the people. Aunties, I also thank you. It's you who have helped the people. Director Wu, who was wearing a high hat, felt comfortable all over. Looking at Hao Hongmei, she suddenly felt uncomfortable everywhere. Several women in the courtyard were even more impressed by Meng Chun's praise, and they were carried away by Director Wu in a noisy manner. Seeing Hao Hongmei pouting like a chicken cub, Meng Chun lowered her head and curled the corners of her mouth. She looked up, but her face was full of gratitude, bowing to the aunts who had just helped to speak. Aunties, thank you very much for believing me. You have said so much for me. I will never refuse to help you with anything in the future. The neighbors used to believe in Hao Hongmei's nonsense, but now they are so embarrassed to hear this. They run away without saying a few words, secretly vowing to help Meng Chun more in the future. Meng Chun turned around and went back to the house, holding his household registration book, to the post office to prove his mother-daughter relationship with Hao Hongmei. He found out the address of the letters sent by her biological parents over the past decade. She didn't have time to read much, and it was almost time to finish work. She rushed to the street office without stopping and moved her household registration to become an independent household. In the 1980s, the household registration book was a separate page, but Meng Chun collected her page and put it back in place while there was no one at home. Hao Hongmei was only released at night, feeling angry as she smashed things, but couldn't find a way to trouble Meng Chun. Meng Chun ignored her and went into the room to write down several different mailing addresses he had found. It seemed that they had changed places in the past decade. Her biological parents came back a year later, so she couldn't wait anymore. Meng Chun drew a circle on the latest mailing address and decided to take a gamble. She sent the letter to see if her parents could receive it, and after finishing these tasks, Meng Chun went to bed. The next day at dawn, she went out to do something big. Selling jobs. In her past life, Erni snatched away the textile factory clerk she had worked hard to get into. After her elder brother Meng just returned to the city with his wife, they also fell in love with this job, and the two of them fought fiercely. No one can expect to get her job in this lifetime. When Meng Chun stepped lightly to the textile factory, the office of the head of the Human Resources Department had already lit up. Dong dong dong. Enter. Meng Chun pushed open the door and came in, directly facing the department head. Zhao, to be honest, I came so early and wanted to ask for your help. I heard that your daughter wanted to change the work in the workshop to an office job a few days ago, and even said she could make up 200 yuan, he said. Do you have the idea of changing jobs? Director Zhao closed his pen in an instant and sighed. This has made me so worried that I want to work in the office. But the work in this office is a mess, and no one wants it. But my daughter is pregnant and can't work in the workshop anymore. Meng Chun instantly smiled and said, Chief Zhao, you see, you haven't met me. I'm here to help you solve your problems. I want to sell my job. There are many people who are asking to buy it, but I don't want to sell it. I have to hold on to you for now. After speaking, she extended 5 fingers and shook them. I don't need much, Director Zhao. Just give me 500 yuan, that's enough. Director Zhao sat up straight and said, have you really considered it? If you have considered it, I will immediately notify my wife to bring the money. He didn't ask why, but the job in Beijing is becoming increasingly difficult. He asked who he would go to if he regretted it. Meng Chun nodded heavily and said, I only have one condition. If someone asks, don't say that this job was bought for 500 yuan. Director Zhao naturally agreed, and the two of them hit it off immediately. Meng Chun followed him with his household registration page to handle the work transfer procedures. The workers in the factory were gradually starting work, and Meng Chun's procedures were also completed. Zhao and his wife looked relieved, and their faces were both happy. Meng Chun felt even happier when he touched the thick stack of money in his crossbody bag. She ran home with a gust of wind all the way, pushed open the door, and clamored like a vegetable market. A man and a woman sat inside, covered in dust, and the woman held a boy who was eating snot in her arms. Hao Hongmei's smiling face was full of wrinkles, frightening her to death. Now it was the time for the educated youth to return to the city, and it was indeed Meng Gang, the only son of Hao Hongmei, who had returned with his married wife from the countryside. Meng Chun stepped over the door and walked in with 2 little girls still arguing. As soon as Hao Hongmei saw Meng Chun's face, she didn't smile. She quickly closed the door to make sure she couldn't hear her, and then dared to shout and curse, damn it. You still know you're coming back. Coincidentally, your brother has suffered so much in the countryside and finally came back to reunite. You can give your job directly to your brother, and you can help him take your nephew and niece at home. How is he in Chapter 4? Gu Chang'an. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Instead, Meng Gang smiled with a good temper. I can do the work of textile factory secretary. Don't worry, but the children are bothering you. Meng Hong and Meng Yun sisters don't need to take it when they are old. Xiao Jun is only 3 years old, and you have to spend dim sum. You can't knock it. That's right, my son is precious. You are the only grandson of the old Meng family, you must show me well. In our village, all the girls have to wait at home to serve men and children. How can you go out and show your face? Fortunately, your brother came back and took over your job in time. It's really lucky. Meng's sister.in.law also agreed, looking as if she had been taken advantage of. Look at this big family, her work has become their bag, and no one cares whether she wants it or not. Meng Chun pretended to be puzzled and said, Big brother, why don't you take the exam yourself? Can't you pass it? Anyway, you can't think about my job anymore. It's already gone. Meng Gang's kindness disappeared from his face, and in an instant, his ferocious spirit seemed to want to hit someone. What do you mean? I didn't believe in you when my mother just said you were a white-eyed wolf. I raised you for so long, and it's really a waste. It's just a job, and if I take a liking to it, it's mine. You loser. It's useless to make up lies. You dare to compete with my son for a job. If it weren't for me raising you, you wouldn't even have a chance to work. If you don't give me this job, I'll have to give it to you. Bang dang. Meng Chun kicked down the thermos next to the table, and the room fell silent for a moment. Her face remained expressionless and she said, Mom. Don't get excited yet. It's also the good girl you taught me. How did she collude with men and get caught in bed? It's been spreading throughout our factory. The factory thinks that as her sister, I have a bad influence and won't let me do it anymore. Hao Hongmei didn't believe it and stared as if she could expose Meng Chun. Why say you're not allowed to work? You're a formal worker who got admitted. Don't you want to deceive me specifically for work? Meng Chun's aura was even stronger than hers, and his gaze condemned him. If you don't believe me, why don't you go to the factory and ask? It's all your fault. The upper beam is not straight and the lower beam is crooked. If it weren't for you and Meng Erni losing this job, my brother might be working in the textile factory now. I want to ask why. If you have the ability, go to the factory and make trouble, and bring back this job. After finishing speaking, Meng Chun deliberately whispered, Dad should be back when he goes to the south to repair the railway. I don't know if he can still keep his job, it's really embarrassing. Hao Hongmei suddenly sat in a daze, unsure of what she was thinking, her heart throbbing with pain. Unfortunately, that was a great job. The job he received is gone, and Meng Gang is even more anxious like an ant on a hot pot, with a tone of complaint, Mom, you go to the textile factory to cause trouble, go now. This is all your and Meng Erni's fault. What's the relationship with Meng Chun? Why take away the job? Hao Hongmei gritted her teeth in anger and said, Let's make a fuss. It's getting too big, do you want to make your father work too? The whole family is going to drink the wind. Mom has a way, this job can't do without you. Meng Chun had anticipated early on that this family was always bullied and afraid of the hard, especially Hao Hongmei, who was a stubborn person. She was curious about what bad ideas Hao Hongmei had in mind. Hao Hongmei's eyes dripped as she turned to Meng Chun. She cleared her throat and said, I've shown you a family. Chao Xinmin, the eldest son of the grain station master, is a second marriage, but they don't have any children. If you get married, you'll just wait and enjoy yourself. I've raised you so much that I can't harm you. Together, I still had my mind on her. Just a casual inquiry reveals that no one in a good family married their daughter to Chao Xinmin. His previous wife was beaten to death by his domestic violence. In her previous life, Hao Hongmei sold her to Chao Xinmin for 500 yuan, and in this life, she still wants to sell her in exchange for money to buy a job for Meng Gang. How could there be such a good thing? Even if you don't agree, it's no use. This matter is settled. Tomorrow I'll see you at home long ago. What dare you do to make such a fuss about me not killing you? Hao Hongmei saw that she didn't speak and immediately lost her composure. Even if you have your own parents, you are still raised by me. You have to be a cow and a horse for me, and I'll tell you, you can't escape. Meng Chun couldn't help but sneer in his heart, and without hesitation, he reached out and said, Then you give me money. I need to go buy something now. My clothes are tattered and look like homeless people outside. Who would like me? Don't just waste everything. Hao Hongmei looked at her steadily, thinking that she was still useful. She cursed and took out 3 yuan, no more. Mosquito meat is also meat. Meng Chun quickly put it into his army green crossbody bag and suddenly asked, Mom, when will you repent at the conference? Remember to inform me, and I will definitely be there to accept your repentance. Hao Hongmei's face looked extremely ugly in an instant. Meng Chun finished speaking and threw the door away, leaving Hao Hongmei's roar behind. She had no intention of buying anything at all. She grabbed the money and went to a state-owned restaurant, intending to eat and drink enough to find Meng Erni and introduce Chao Xinmin, the good man, to her. The waiter at the state-owned restaurant happened to be Lu Chunhong, Meng Chun's elementary school classmate. As soon as Meng Chun walked in, he saw her packing things with a runny nose and tears. "What's wrong with you, Chunhong?" Lu Chunhong wiped her tears and felt a bit aggrieved. "The police have searched several times today and insisted that someone has hidden gold here. The manager scolded me and said that I didn't take good care of the guests, causing the loss to the restaurant. Can you blame me for this?" Meng Chun, of course, shared a grudge with her and said, "I can't blame you for that. Your manager is really going too far." Someone helped her speak, and Lu Chunhong's mood improved. "Let's keep it quiet, don't you still eat Yangchun noodles? Hurry up and sit down," she said. Meng Chun went to find a table against the wall and sat down. He was wiping the table with a tissue when his mind suddenly flashed, "Gold. How familiar are you?" Just as I was thinking about it, there suddenly sat a thin little man across from me, with sweat all over his forehead and his legs constantly shaking. From time to time, he looked at her with his eyes and then at the entrance of the state-owned restaurant. She frowned strangely and glanced at the scar that had spread from his eyebrows to the corner of her mouth. In an instant, goosebumps appeared all over her body, and she remembered. In a past life, there was a murder case triggered by the sale of gold. The criminal was caught by the police while retrieving gold. He attempted to escape by robbing and killing someone, and wanted photos were posted all over the streets and alleys. Meng Chun's heartbeat reached her throat, her hands shaking uncontrollably as she grabbed the bag, but she pretended to be calm and lowered her head. She had to find a way to leave unnoticed. "I didn't say I would pick you up, why did you come over by yourself?" Meng Chun turned his head when he heard the sound, and saw a tall man strode over. His body was rigid and straight, with muscles that gave him a sense of security. His sharp and angular face was full of wildness, and his sharp and curvaceous head made him appear even more robust. Meng Chun froze instantly. It was him, Gu Chang'an. In her past life, her biological parents showed kindness to the Gu family. The Gu family wanted Gu Chang'an to marry Meng Erni, who replaced her in marriage, but he refused. Despite Meng Erni's 30.6 strategies, he remained unwavering and ultimately sacrificed himself on the battlefield, becoming a hero. "What's the matter? I'm really angry with you. I'll make amends to you. Would you like to have braised pork belly?" Chapter 5. Luring Meng Erni, Success. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Meng Chun was gently grabbed by Gu Chang'an, and his deep voice instantly exploded in his ears. Feeling the thin and weak man's eyes staring at her like a poisonous snake, Meng Chun suddenly reacts and pouts impatiently at Gu Chang'an's deep and bright eyes. "You made me wait so long, and a bowl of braised pork belly wanted to kill me. How could I get 2 bowls?" Gu Chang'an chuckled lightly and grabbed her arm, heading straight to the front desk. "Let's go order whatever we want." After speaking, Gu Chang'an seemed to feel Meng Chun trembling with fear. He patted her reassuringly and whispered in her ear, "Look at the menu for a while, don't be afraid, it's okay." Meng Chun swallowed in fear and nervousness, trying to calm her emotions. During the gap between looking at the menu, she noticed that the thin man had sat in her previous position. Before she could see clearly, she was suddenly pulled behind by Gu Chang'an's arm. He turned around and kicked fiercely towards the chair, which hit the skinny man's leg. With lightning speed, he stepped on the chair and threw the skinny man who was trying to escape to the ground. Instantly, there was a stir around him, and several tall men quickly gathered around to handcuff him. Gu Chang'an explained to the man beside him a few words before turning around and walking to Meng Chun. He scanned the image he had just put on with Meng Chun in front of the prisoner, becoming cold and serious. Explaining to Meng Chun with a straight eye, "Comrade, I apologize just now. The prisoner who sold gold is sitting across from you. We want to lure out the gold we have been pursuing, but we are afraid that you will be harmed. We can only calmly disperse you like this." Meng Chun was almost scared to death. When he heard that it was okay, his legs softened instantly and he sat down on the ground with a smack. Gu Chang'an quickly bent down and squatted down. "Comrade, are you okay?" Meng Chun shook his head and then suddenly nodded. "I was so scared that my leg cramped and I couldn't stand up," he said, then sadly extended his arm. "It seems like your wrist was dislocated just now. She doesn't even know how strong this man's hand is, it hurts." Gu Chang'an's face seemed to freeze for a moment, and he suddenly approached. The next second, Meng Chun jumped into the air and was picked up by Gu Chang'an. Her face turned red, and it was the first time a man had been holding her. Meng Chun felt a bit uneasy and thought about it further. "Sorry comrade, I'm taking you to the hospital now." Gu Chang'an's face was a bit regretful. He had never been with the girl before and had no control. How could he have thought that the girl's bones were so fragile? Meng Chun, who was at a close distance, could smell the refreshing soap smell on Gu Chang'an's body. Her face turned crimson, and she looked up to see Gu Chang'an's protruding Adam's apple sliding up and down, and the tendons in her neck tense. At first glance, it seemed that the man was also very nervous. Meng Chun's nervousness was instantly relieved, and he curiously asked, "Comrade, you were not afraid of me revealing things like that just now?" "I don't know you, how can you be sure I will cooperate with you?" "I'm afraid, but I'm even more afraid that innocent comrades will be harmed. As long as I go over, I can protect you even if I reveal my secrets." Meng Chun's heart shook fiercely. In his previous life, he did sacrifice an innocent citizen, but fortunately, this life has changed. The muscles on Gu Chang'an's arm were tense and protruding, and he clenched his big hand horizontally, afraid of thrusting the little girl in his arms. After finally arriving at the hospital, Gu Chang'an let go of Meng Chun and breathed a heavy sigh of relief in his heart, which was even harder than fighting. In the surgical department, Meng Chun was slapped on his wrist by the doctor, and his leg was almost done. It was not good to delay Gu Chang'an's time anymore, so he quickly stood up and thanked Gu Chang'an. "Comrade, thank you so much today. My sister is also hospitalized in this hospital, and I still need to go see her. So I'll leave first. Please be slow on your way. This hospital is exactly where Erni lives." Meng Chun went directly to the inpatient department on the second floor and asked the nurse to finally find Erni's ward. "Erni, if you don't pay the medical expenses, you won't be able to stay today. Please ask your family to make up for the medical expenses as soon as possible." Erni nodded obediently, and the nurse instructed her to go to the next bed. She looked up and saw Meng Chun enter, her face instantly gloomy and dripping with water. "Get out of here, I'm doing this because of you. You still have face." Meng Chun was about to be laughed at by Erni's shameless anger. "I used my name to seduce a man and let his wife discover that he wanted to frame me. He was exposed and beaten like this. Now he says it was me who caused it, and as expected, people are invincible in the world without shame." The eyes in the ward suddenly gathered, and Erni's face was instantly burning with panic. She wished to peel off Meng Chun's skin and cramp her. "You scumbag, you shut up for me, waiting for my mother to teach you a lesson. Don't tease me, just these 2 days my mom has forgotten about you. Only I remember you. Look, Mom has come to see you. Mom is busy introducing me to a good marriage. The youngest son of the grain station master works in the government. Tomorrow morning, I will be at home and see each other. From now on, I will be too official." Meng Chun looked at Erni, whose face was full of disbelief, and continued to ignite his anger. "My mother doesn't value you. Just look at your name and you can tell. If this happens again, the adulterer will also run away. In the future, you will only be sold by my mother to a mountain valley where there is no news. Apart from giving birth, you will also have children. You will be 1 head shorter than me for your whole life. You shut up." Erni was so angry that her face twisted. "Mom wouldn't treat me like this. No way. Mom was about to break your leg with a firewood stick that day, and you forgot about it. Meng Chun pretended to be proud and took out a few dollars from his bag. Did you see that? This is what Mom specifically asked me to buy clothes for, to make me look good. Tomorrow morning, I will meet the young son of the webmaster. Meng Chun saw that Erni's face was flustered and she knew it was almost over. She deliberately stood up and warned, I came specifically to tell you. My mother said she won't let you come back tomorrow. If you dare to stir up this good marriage with me, she won't spare you. Erni tightly gripped the blanket, her face changing in an unpredictable way, her eyes spinning as if she was about to have some bad idea. Seeing her appearance, Meng Chun turned his head and walked away after speaking harshly. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but soar wildly, and the fish was about to take the bait. Erni had never seen the son of the Chow family before. She knew Erni well, and her appearance was not important. What was important was her status as an official wife, so Erni would definitely come and snatch her good marriage. Meng Chun hummed a song and walked to the door of the sick room, only to bump into a wall. Who is this? How could it happen to be blocking this road? Meng Chun lifted his head in a bit of anger, and the corner of his raised mouth instantly froze. Gu Chang'an. Meng Chuanshua closed the door of the sick room and without saying a word, he quickly took Gu Chang'an's hand and walked to the corridor far away from the hospital room. Perhaps the words just now had all been accurately transmitted to Gu Chang'an's ears. These were all wonderful fate. I forgot to take your medicine, I'll bring it to you. Gu Chang'an followed Meng Chun to stand firm, looking at the girl in front of him with a face full of regret, and promptly handed over the ointment in his hand. Meng Chun took the ointment in a daze and quickly reached out to pull his crossbody bag. Well. I'll give you the money, he said just now during the bone grafting. The doctor saw the bruises on her arm that Hao Hongmei had beaten before, and suggested that she buy a ointment. She thought this ointment was expensive and didn't buy it because she didn't think it was necessary. It was clearly bought for her by Gu Chang'an. No need, it's a compensation for dragging you out of place. Let's go. Gu Chang'an was not a talkative person, so he turned around and left after finishing the task. Meng Chun felt an indescribable emotion in her heart. This was the first time she had received kindness from others towards her. Meng Chun suddenly looked up and said, Comrade. Chapter 6. Meng Chun is a murderer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Gu Chang'an turn around, Meng Chun suddenly smiled and said, My name is Meng Chun. Chun is the sprout of Chun. Thank you for protecting me today. Goodbye. The little girl's eyes were big and bright, and her voice was clear, falling straight into her heart. After a pause, Gu Chang'an nodded and replied in a calm voice, My name is Gu Chang'an. Goodbye Comrade Meng. Gu Yingchang, who has always been calm and cold, walked out of the hospital with a rare and disorderly pace, his spine straightened even more, like the newborn Xiao Baiyang. Meng Chun pinched the ointment in his hand and watched as Gu Chang'an walked away, feeling a bit regretful. A good person like Gu Chang'an died on the battlefield, while the villain Hao Hongmei lived longer than anyone else. A good person doesn't live long, and disasters leave 1,000 years behind. Meng Chun shook her head and didn't think anymore. She walked slowly back and had just arrived across from the hospital. Many vendors selling steamed buns and eggs gathered in front of one, and she heard the woman's harsh voice. Your buns are poisonous. Look at how you poison my son like this, compensate me. Otherwise, I'll smash your bun stall. Meng Chun saw a purplish-red boy with a suppressed face through the cracks in the crowd, clutching his neck and constantly rolling on the ground. The veins on his neck burst out, clearly stuck and uncomfortable. Across the street is the hospital, so there's no need for her to meddle. Meng Chun was about to turn around and leave when he suddenly saw a familiar tall and thin young man rushing to pick up the child. The hospital is here, let's hurry to the hospital. Life is at stake, don't waste time. The mother hugged the young man's arm tightly and didn't let him move, as if she didn't care about her own son. You compensate me first. I don't want more than 30, I'll go see for myself, otherwise we'll be wasting our time here. Let everyone who comes and goes know that your steamed buns have been poisoned. See who will buy your steamed buns in the future. Meng Chun's foot stopped instantly as he was about to walk, which was clearly deceiving someone. She turned around and forcefully squeezed into the crowd. In her past life, she was beaten by Chao Xinmin with a belt in public. Only this young man stood up and stopped Chao Xinmin. Now she should also help. Meng Chun squeezed next to the child and quickly helped up the uncomfortable and rolling child, quickly placing it on her arched leg. Before she could move, she was instantly pushed away by the mother, causing her to stumble a few steps and almost fall. Where did you come from? Hurry up and let my son go. Are you trying to kill my son? If there's anything wrong with my son, you can also compensate me. Meng Chun's face turned angry as he was pushed, and he glared at her angrily. I have a way to save him. Life is important, money is important. If this continues, your son will be dead. You, hold her tight for me. The young man quickly reacted and pulled the mother aside to prevent her from causing trouble. Meng Chun quickly pulled up the child who was almost unconscious, hugging his abdomen and constantly squeezing it. Seeing Meng Chun's movements, the mother of the child immediately couldn't help but shout at the top of her throat, killed. This woman is a murderer. It's okay to harm my child like this, but... Shut up, stop howling. Meng Chun finished speaking, and the young man quickly obediently covered the mother's mouth. I saw the child cough for a while and suddenly spit out a colored glass bead. It didn't hurt any longer. Surprisingly, he had the leisure to squat and pick up the iron box that had just been thrown on the ground. He threw the glass bead back into the iron box and said, Mom, it's not that the bun was poisoned. The human bun is delicious, but I accidentally swallowed the glass bead. This childish remark immediately made the surrounding audience burst into laughter. You damn child, shut up. The mother looked at the people around her with a coquettish expression and slapped the child on the head. This child's mother clearly knew she was stuck and thought she was going to lose her life. She thought she could steal some money by the way, but Meng Chun didn't say much. After finishing the good deed, she turned around and left silently. Hey! Meng Chun, I know your name is Meng Chun, right? Hello, my name is Xiao Haichao. It was thanks to you just now, otherwise my mother's steamed bun stall would have been misunderstood. Xiao Haichao bared his white teeth and strode up, looking at Meng Chun with a look of admiration. This is strange. If it weren't for the past life, Meng Chun wouldn't have known him at all. He suddenly asked curiously, do you know me? I know you, I live across from your courtyard. That day, you were such a clever mistress, and I was also watching the excitement outside. In just a few words, you exposed the real mistress. It's really amazing. Speaking of this, Xiao Haichao was even more impressed. If he were a lesbian, perhaps he would have been frightened at the time. He quickly handed over the 3 meat buns he had packed in his hand and said, My mother asked me to give them to you. Please accept them quickly. I don't have any work to do, so I can only come over and take action to annoy her. If this task can't be completed, then she must scold me. Meng Chun was amused by him and didn't politely accept it. Thinking of what he had just said, his calculations began to crackle in his heart. She has been wandering in this world for so long in her past life, and has seen a lot. Now she is gradually exploring business. She sold her job mainly to do business. Only when she has money and skills can she regulate that family. Now she is in poverty, no matter how much she says, it's useless. I was originally worried about her being a lesbian, but with so many blind spots in society now, it's not safe to do business alone and it's easy to be targeted. Someone gives pillows when you're really dozing off. Meng Chunshua's eyes lit up as he looked at Xiao Haichao. She coughed lightly and tentatively spoke, "If you don't have a job, would you be willing to follow me? I'm planning to do the clothing business and go to the Shenzhen market to purchase goods. I need someone to help me move the goods. Take a look." "Oh my." Xiao Haichao patted his thigh and his face was full of surprise. "Don't look, I'll do it. Whenever you need me, you can go across the door and squeak. I'm willing to follow you, Sister Meng." Meng Chun's mouth twitched at the corner. It was really a natural familiarity, but now Meng Jia has started. "Okay, I'll talk to you more carefully when I'm free in a few days. I'll go back first." Having solved a major issue, Meng Chun's heart was half relieved and he strolled back home. Meng Chun has returned. "I'll bring you some of the small pickled vegetables made at home to try. Chun, this child has really suffered." The Meng family lived in a large courtyard, and as soon as Meng Chun returned, she was surrounded by the ants in the courtyard. No one used to be willing to pay attention to her. Meng Chun was flattered and could only nod with a smile, looking at Aunt Yu who was putting in insoles at the door. His eyes flickered and he said, "Aunt Yu's embroidered patterns on insoles are really beautiful. Unlike me, I wouldn't know how to put them in." Aunt Yu was praised and said happily, "Damn it. What's so nice about this? If you like to come home, I'll teach you. You're free anytime." Meng Chun's face was instantly filled with surprise. "Really? Will it be tomorrow morning? I also have a flower-like appearance. Bring it over and let's embroider it together. Chun, let's go call you tomorrow morning. You can wait at home with peace of mind." The ant next to her looked at it with a hot eye. Meng Chun's parents are not easy, she can't offend him. Meng Chun's heart was pounded by these words. She nodded repeatedly and said, "That's it. That's it. That's it." Meng Chun finished speaking and then turned back to the Meng family. The children inside were noisy, and she entered the room without saying a word. As soon as she entered, the door was instantly blocked from outside. She pushed hard, but couldn't push it away at all. Hao Hongmei's voice came in through the door, "You stay well with me. When we meet tomorrow, we will naturally let you out. You can't die even if you're hungry all night. Don't think of any tricks for me." Chapter 7. Catching the Traitor in Bed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Meng Chun knew that Hao Hongmei would do these little tricks, so she didn't even bother to say anything. She sat back on the bed and rummaged through her bag to find money for selling work. Her monthly salary was taken away by Hao Hongmei, which was the first time she had seen so much money. She carefully sewed it into her clothes, intending to use it for business when the time came. After finishing these tasks, Meng Chun leaned onto the table and wrote a clear account of his situation and how he had been treated by Hao Hongmei over the years. In short, this is a letter of complaint. Previously, she couldn't get back the foster care money given by her parents, so Hao Hongmei can't expect to get half a penny from her afterwards. She also put the letter on her body before falling asleep. The next morning, Meng Chun opened the window of the house as soon as she opened her eyes. Her window was low, and from childhood to adulthood, Meng Erni liked to sneak out and play. Hao Hongmei, who had just turned around and was barged in, forcefully pulled her out. "Little scumbag, hurry up and tidy up my hooves. Your sister.in.law took the child out early in the morning to make room for you. Don't forget that you still owe your brother work. If you dare to drop the chain suddenly today, I will kill you." Meng Chun shook off Hao Hongmei and corrected her rudely, "Mom, you may be old and confused. I don't owe him a job, but you have caused me to lose my job. Besides, you treat me like a slave every year with the money my parents give you, and the amount you owe me is countless. It seems that the last education had no effect. When the conference confesses, I will have to report your situation to Director Wu." Hao Hongmei was so angry that she couldn't say a word. When did this despicable girl become so sharp-tongued? She felt a chill in her heart and had to solve this dead girl as soon as possible. The door suddenly banged, and Hao Hongmei's face changed instantly. She quickly ran to open the door, smiling like a flower. Come in, I've been waiting for you all morning, she said. Meng Chun saw that the middle-aged woman in Lenin's attire was Zhao Limei, the mother of Chao Xinmin. When she came in, she looked around high and looked at Meng Chun with a look of disdain. Tisk, there's really a sour smell everywhere, he said. Next came a man with a Chinese face. Meng Chun's blood flowed backwards instantly, his hands and feet cold. Even after countless psychological constructions, seeing the man who had killed him in his previous life, Meng Chun still had a suffocating fear, almost unable to breathe. She took a deep breath, clenched her hand, and looked straight at Chao Xinmin's stunning eyes. Then, she was fiercely pushed by Hao Hongmei next to her. What are you still staring at? Hurry up and let the guests drink tea. Turning her head to please Chao Xinmin and Zhao Limei, she pushed the teapot in front of them and said, she's feeling shy. Actually, she's extremely satisfied. You guys should drink tea. Meng Chun looked at the two teapots strangely. It was Hao Hongmei who had poured them in advance. Her behavior could only indicate that there must be something wrong with Chao Xinmin's cup. Thinking that Meng Chun heard a slight commotion in her room, she couldn't help but take a light breath and her spine relaxed slightly. It seemed like everything was ready except for the east wind. Hao Hongmei's smile deepened when she saw Chao Xinmin drinking tea. She immediately stood up and whispered to Zhao Limei, who had a disdainful expression on her face, Zhao accountant, let me take you out for a walk. I think these two children want to be alone everywhere. Zhao Limei didn't want to get along with these poor people, and her face was full of unwillingness. It's just that your poor and sour taste has improved. If it weren't for my son's second marriage, do you think you could take your turn? Hao Hongmei's face was a bit stiff, and she could only shamelessly crouch around Zhao Limei, holding her in her arms. Meng Chun snorted coldly in his heart, as expected, evil people have their own ways of grinding them. Chao Xinmin coughed on the side and said, Mom, go out and let's get to know each other. When Zhao Limei heard her son say this, she knew he was interested and felt very unhappy. She could only comfort herself that she would marry in the future and take good care of Meng Chun, then follow Hao Hongmei out. Hao Hongmei gave Meng Chun a threatening glance, and when she left, she smiled with a trembling expression, afraid that she thought it was certain. Meng Chun sarcastically withdrew her gaze and kept pressing her hand on the pocket of the clothes containing the paper-cutting knife. As soon as the person left, Chao Xinmin's eyes were fixed on Meng Chun, and he spoke with a hint of satisfaction, you are lucky enough to attract my attention. In the future, when you marry in, you must listen to me. If I ask you to go east, you must go east. Speaking, Chao Xinmin inexplicably felt that his body was feeling a bit hot and unbearable. He took a sip of water and couldn't help but approach Meng Chun, who remained silent step by step. Meng Chun held his breath tightly and kept retreating, his guard almost overflowing in his eyes. Suddenly, the door was knocked again, and Meng Chun's tense body instantly relaxed halfway. She spoke at an extremely fast pace, Comrade Chao, I'm afraid someone might be looking for me. I'll go back. Without waiting for Chao Xinmin to react, she ran to the door like a ghost chasing after her, and as expected, several ants who taught her how to put insoles had arrived. Meng Chun, have you had guests at your house? Aunt Yu asked curiously as she could only see the back of a man. Meng Chun quickly closed the door and pretended to be covering his mouth. It's nothing, Auntie, let's go to your house and see the flowers, he said. A few people looked at each other inexplicably, and without further questioning, they went to Aunt Yu's house in a lively manner. Meng Chun was gradually taught how to embroider patterns by Aunt Yu, and it was estimated that time was almost up. She deliberately pretended to be restless and embroidered several wrong steps. Aunt Yu couldn't help but tentatively ask, what's wrong with Meng Chun? I've been calling you since just now and I've noticed something's wrong with you. What's up to you to tell your aunts? Meng Chun bit his lip with a look of almost crying. He hesitated and said, "Auntie, my mother suddenly brought in a man this morning and called him Chao Xinmin. Then she left, leaving only me and Chao Xinmin alone. I am afraid, and I dare not go back now." "What? Then Chao Xinmin can't marry, that's not a good thing. Isn't it unpleasant for Hao Hongmei not to cause trouble? Let's go, aunties, go back with you and ask her what Hao Hongmei wants to do. Isn't she not treating your own parents seriously? What right does she have for you to get married?" A few aunts were full of anger and chatter, leading Meng Chun back in a noisy manner. Meng Chun walked to the door and said somewhat embarrassed, "Auntie, I'll go see if my mother has come back first. Maybe she has something urgent. She will be back long ago." The aunts immediately looked at Meng Chun with even more pity in their eyes. God knew she just had to see the situation inside the room first in order to adapt to the situation. Meng Chun was the first to open the door and enter, with a strange sound mixed with an unknown smell in the air. It goes without saying that he knew what he was doing. Meng Chun took a step forward and saw Chao Xinmin still working hard, with his back to her, completely unaware of anyone entering. He was stunned and met Meng Erni, who was holding Chao Xinmin. Meng Erni's flushed face flashed with surprise, and soon he proudly raised an eyebrow at Meng Chun. She didn't expect things to go so smoothly. As soon as she left the room to talk to this man, he rushed forward. Sure enough, Meng Chun, this slut, didn't have the life of this official wife. Meng Chun's mouth curled up, and with Meng Erni's character, this situation was within her expectations. She glanced at Meng Erni and quickly covered her ear, screaming and retreating incredulously, "What are you doing?" Chapter 8. Who calculated who? You are listening at novelfull.audio. What's going on? What's going on? Aunt you brought someone in and saw this situation, causing a huge blush. Oh my god, I'm such a bitch. Do you still want to be shameless? Meng Erni never expected so many people, and in an instant, her face turned pale as she pulled on her clothes to block her chest. Even Chao Xinmin was trembling with fear, and her confused face regained a bit of sanity as she hurriedly put on her clothes. Hongmei, hurry up and take a look. Your daughter and man started that shameless thing in broad daylight. You're not ashamed. The outermost aunt saw Hao Hongmei bringing someone in and quickly shouted out in a loud voice, gloating. Upon hearing these words, Hao Hongmei knew that the matter had been resolved. Her face was filled with joy that couldn't be concealed, and she cursed fiercely, "Meng Chun, this damn little slut. I knew she was not behaving properly. I must kill this little slut and make her lose face in our entire alley." Aunt you spoke angrily, Hao Hongmei. What are you talking about? Take a good look inside and see who this slut is. A few aunts quickly got out of the way, and Hao Hongmei saw Meng Chun standing at the door dressed neatly, as if she had seen a ghost. The joy on her face disappeared, and her heart suddenly cooled. This slut is here, who is the person in that room? Meng Chun ran over and fiercely dragged Hao Hongmei in, her voice ringing out loud, "Mom. Look at Meng Erni's old habit again. She couldn't help but flirt with men again in just a few days. When I walked in just now, her white buttocks scared me to death." Upon hearing these words, Hao Hongmei felt dizzy and almost couldn't stand. When she saw Meng Erni naked, her voice trembled and she said, "Erni. What's wrong with you?" Meng Erni reacted quickly and began to cry, looking like a victim. "Mother, he forced me. He destroyed me and must take responsibility for me," she said, "Bitch. You seduced me first, your whole family is plotting against me." Chao Xinmin was not a fool. Without hesitation, he slapped Meng Erni hard, causing her to fall to the ground and bleed from her nose. He now regained consciousness and truly recognized who Meng Erni was. He pointed angrily at Hao Hongmei and said, "It was you who laid the groundwork in that water. Your daughter became my brother's mistress and now she can't get married. How dare you use this dirty trick to make me marry this slut?" Hao Hongmei felt a thump in her heart, her face full of fear and unease, and she suddenly felt that the sky had collapsed. Zhao Limei originally thought her son had made a mistake again before she spoke up. Now that she heard this, she didn't hesitate. She directly pulled at Hao Hongmei and gave her a big slap in the face, saying, "Why do you keep urging me to go out and let my son and Meng Chun spend time alone? You were a good deal at first, and I wanted my family to take over this slut. What you said about letting Meng Chun marry in turned out to be a cover. If you dare to trick us, you're done." "No, I didn't." Hao Hongmei's face was swollen and she explained in a panic, sweeping Meng Chun standing next to her with a resentful expression. "It's you. It's you who didn't want to marry into the Chow family and plotted against us. You should be the one sleeping with the man. You stinky bitch, I'm going to fight you." Meng Chun immediately spoke with grievance and anger, "Mother, what do you mean by that? You said there's a way to marry Meng Erni off and get a job for my older brother. I've been with my aunts all morning, so what can I do? I never expected you to do such a thing and slander me again. Hao Hongmei. How dare you act for me? Your scheming has come to our Chow family. If you want my son to take over Meng Erni, you don't want to live anymore." Zhao Limei was not easy to provoke. She directly grabbed Hao Hongmei's hair and pressed her hard on the ground, beating her. Ah! Hao Hongmei was beaten to the point where she couldn't fight back, kicking her legs and struggling. "Don't hit me, it wasn't me who did it." The scene was chaotic, and Meng Chun took advantage of the lack of attention and squeezed out the crowd to watch the excitement. He spoke anxiously to the children playing in the courtyard, "Huzi. I already saw that you are the little hero of our hospital. Now you go to report to the public security comrades that someone has committed the crime of hooliganism. I will buy you candy later." Being praised for having sugar to eat, Chuozi's eyes lit up instantly and he abandoned his friend, running away like a gust of wind. The Public Security Bureau was not far from here, and Meng Chunhua silently squeezed back. Seeing Meng Erni crying like a crazy woman, she could only use her clothes to block her, afraid that if she put on her clothes, she wouldn't be able to deceive the Chow family. The police arrived quickly, and as soon as they came in, they happened to see the image of Meng Erni, which immediately saved the investigation. "Stop it all. Who is Chow Xinmin?" Aunt Yu quickly pointed to Chow Xinmin, who was blocked by them just now, and said to several police officers in green uniforms, "Comrade Public Security, he is Chow Xinmin." Without hesitation, the police handcuffed Chow Xinmin and said, "Chow Xinmin, someone has reported that you have committed the crime of hooliganism. Come with us. Let go of me, do you know who I am? If you dare to touch me, believe it or not, I will make you lose your job." Chow Xinmin shouted angrily, not taking public security seriously. Zhao Limei's face was shocked, and she let go of her hand. Hao Hongmei quickly ran over and grabbed the police officer tightly. "Police comrades, there must be a misunderstanding here. My man is the head of the grain station, and you must have caught the wrong person. My son was calculated by this family, so you should have caught them. Those who obstruct official duties will be taken away. Have you arrested the wrong person and investigated by the Public Security Bureau? We will return you to your innocence." The public security comrade was upright and waved his hand, taking them all away. Zhao Limei's splashing was useless, and in the end, she glared at Hao Hongmei, who was lying paralyzed on the ground with cannibalistic eyes. The two were reluctantly pushed away by the police. Since hearing the three words Chow Xinmin just now, Meng Erni has been like falling into an ice cave. As soon as the police left, she casually put on her clothes, swept away the pitiful appearance just now, and frantically rushed forward to shake Meng Chun's shoulder. He turned out to be Chow Xinmin. He's not even Chow Xinjuan, the youngest son of the Chow family. Dare you lie to me? You designed me to have sex with Chow Xinmin. You black-hearted slut, it's all over, it's all over. You ruined my whole life. Meng Chun shook her off hard with a puzzled expression on his face. Are you crazy? What are you talking nonsense about? I don't even know who Chao Xinjuan is. Besides, I don't have the great ability to design you to sleep with Chao Xinmin. You deserve it all. You did it on purpose. You lied to me about the young son of the Chao family whom you liked, and deceived me back home. You wanted to push me into the fire pit, and you went to die. Meng Erni's anger surged back and forth in her heart, rushing forward like a madman. Meng Chun was not afraid of her and suddenly pushed her to the ground. He pretended to be afraid and patted his chest, saying, "You're really crazy. I never even went to see you. As you said, I like the youngest son of the Chao family. Why are you coming back? You don't want to sleep with someone and be a bad person." It's hard to say where she accidentally overheard something, which led to her twisted thoughts. Now, this is also Meng Erni's fault. No, Meng Erni, this slut, can't do anything. The people around pointed at Meng Erni and murmured, their faces filled with disgust. Meng Erni was so angry that she couldn't even speak. Even if she hadn't seen Chao Xinmin before, she had heard that Chao Xinmin had killed someone. The more she thought about it, the more desperate she became. She sat on the ground and started crying, "I'm not alive anymore. I'm going to die now. You Meng Chun is a murderer, and you killed me. Meng Erni. What's going on here? Get out of here." A man carrying a dusty bag shouted loudly, turned his head, and smiled at his neighbor with a good temper. "My daughter is not sensible and causing trouble for everyone." Chapter 9, Captain Gu, are you experiencing unrequited love? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Meng Chun looks at his adoptive father Meng Qingshan in front of him. He has a little fear in his eyes and says that she picked up Meng Qingshan's idea. He has not only won a good reputation, but also the title of exemplary individual. Every time Hao Hongmei hit her, Meng Qingshan would pretend to be a good person. In her past life, she thought Meng Qingshan was really good to her, but later she found out that it was Meng Qingshan who had better skills. Now, with just one sentence, the farce came to an end. When everyone entered the room, Meng Qingshan slammed the door shut. Meng Erni saw that Meng Qingshan had a backbone in an instant, and she pulled him to cry and complain, "Dad. You're back. You killed this slut for me. It was she who made people know I was a mistress, and she tricked me into sleeping with Chao Xinmin. She wanted to kill me." Meng Qingshan suppressed his anger on his face and directly pulled Meng Erni, trying to lock her up in the dark and narrow small miscellaneous room. Meng Erni suddenly panicked and said, "Dad, you're crazy. Why are you holding me down? Master, what are you doing? Do you know that this was all done by that slut Meng Chun? You locked the wrong person." Hao Hongmei, dragging her slightly limp leg from being beaten, quickly stopped her. Meng Qingshan didn't say a word, but his turbid eyes turned to him and said, "Meng Chun, go out and take a look. I'll talk to your mother." This was clearly to distract her, and Meng Chun was not interested in listening. He obediently turned around and went out, just in time to mail the letter. Just as Meng Chun walked out of the Yangshu Hutong, he suddenly remembered that he didn't bring the address note and hurriedly ran back. He was afraid of disturbing the people inside, so he carefully opened the door. I tiptoed back to the room and picked up a note, but when I came out, I heard the sound of Hao Hongmei's words inside. The head of the household, that letter was clearly destroyed at the beginning. I don't know where that cheap girl came from. She knew that she had a biological father and mother before she began to transform like crazy. This matter is all over now. How can we explain it to Deputy Factory Director Lu? He said he must let Meng Chun marry Chao Xinmin. Meng Qingshan's voice was firm. She must get married. Otherwise, if Meng Chun found out about that incident back then, he would definitely cause trouble. Deputy Factory Director Lu will definitely come to us for justice. Fortunately, Meng Chun's household registration is with us. Let's find an opportunity to get the Chao family to agree. Meng Chun and Chao Xinmin will directly register for marriage. Chao Xinmin's previous wife was killed, and it's not anyone's fault that Meng Chun got killed after marrying. Deputy Factory Director Lu also had this idea, and we must do it well. Meng Chun didn't listen any longer, quickly closed the door and ran out, panting for breath as he ran a long distance. His mind was filled with chaos, and it turned out that he wanted her to marry Chao Xinmin just to get her killed. What exactly caused her to stir up trouble back then? Who is Deputy Factory Director Lu? Meng Chun felt her mind was in a mess now, only knowing that Deputy Factory Director Lu and others wanted her to die naturally. She took a deep breath and clenched her fist tightly. She wanted to figure out what was causing them to plan on her. They all wanted to harm her, so she had to live well. Until he reached the door of the post office, Meng Chun, who was restless, bumped into a middle-aged man with glasses, and the envelope in his hand fell to the ground. Meng Chun Kai quickly regained his composure and picked it up. He patted the dust on it and looked apologetic. "Comrade, I'm really sorry. It was my carelessness, you." Before he could finish speaking, the letter was quickly snatched away by the man and he quickly replied, "It's okay." The middle-aged man hurriedly left with the letter in hand. Strangely, Meng Chun shook his head, put aside what had just happened, stuffed his letter into the envelope, pasted a stamp, and queued up to send it. Meng Chun, who was focused on queuing, didn't know that he had already been targeted by two men. Chang'an, this girl might have seen the basic information on his envelope just now. Let me ask. We've been staring at this person long enough, and we can't just sit and wait to die anymore. Yuan Qing next to Gu Chang'an said and planned to go, but was suddenly grabbed by Gu Chang'an's arm. Yuan Qing looked at him strangely, and Gu Chang'an coughed lightly. "I know her, I'll go." He didn't expect to meet her as soon as he finished training and joined the army. Ignoring Yuan Qing's teasing gaze, he walked towards Meng Chun with an uncomfortable stride. "Comrade Meng." Meng Chuanhua turned his head and his eyes suddenly didn't know where to look. Gu Chang'an was wearing green military pants with his legs rolled up, and his white vest was wet with sweat, revealing his sturdy chest, not to mention his arms with obvious muscle lines exposed outside. She covered her slightly red face with an envelope in her hand, and her bright eyes looked at Gu Chang'an. "What a coincidence, Comrade Gu, are you also here to send a letter?" Gu Chang'an shook his head and stood quietly on the side. "No, Comrade Meng, I have something I want to ask you." "I'll wait for you to finish sending the letter." "What can she ask?" Gu Chang'an. Meng Chun nodded in surprise, turned his head, and lined up with her. Meng Chun chatted with the staff for a few words and quickly sent the letter. Gu Chang'an's gaze unconsciously followed Meng Chun, and Yuan Qing walked up to him at some point, holding his shoulder. "With my 2 years of experience as a reconnaissance soldier, this is definitely a choking little chili pepper. You'll have to endure it in the future," he said. Gu Chang'an's ears immediately turned red and hot, and he glared at Yuan Qing with a black face. "Shut up, we only met once. Don't ruin the reputation of the little girl," he said. After speaking, Yuan Qing stood straight and turned his head to see that the female comrade had indeed come over. Meng Chun saw a tall man standing next to Gu Chang'an, both wearing the same clothes. She glanced back and said, "Comrade Gu, what do you want to ask me?" Gu Chang'an lowered his head and looked into her eyes. "Just now, you bumped into someone at the post office. Do you remember the basic information of the address, name, and other basic information on the envelope in that person's hand?" Meng Chun was taken aback when asked, and Yuan Qing followed closely and explained, "Comrade, don't think too much. We are students selected by the army to the military university and have received a temporary task. The person you bumped into just now has an identity issue, and today we happened to meet, so I wanted to ask if you noticed that letter." Meng Chun frowned and thought for a moment before suddenly having a flash of inspiration. "The mailing address is 188, Zhongzhou Street, Yokohama County, Shenzhen. I don't know anything else, I don't know if I can help you." She only took a few more glances when she saw the Shenzhen market, and only remembered an address. This is amazing. Yuan Qing shook her hands with excitement. Thank you so much. Comrade. Gu Chang'an's face remained expressionless. Before Yuan Qing could finish speaking, he forcefully pulled Yuan Qing's hand down and jumped out word by word. Speak well, speak with your mouth. Hiss. Yuan Qing looked sour on his teeth and shrugged casually. Alright, after training, he's sweating profusely. I'm a stinky man who's bothering you. Meng Chun couldn't help but chuckle at Yuan Qing's appearance and spoke confidently, it's nothing else, I'll go back first. The postman came and went, and after talking to two big men for a long time, Meng Chun waved her hand and left. The two men in place watched as Meng Chun walked away. Yuan Qing patted Gu Chang'an's shoulder and smiled meaningfully, TSK, it seems that this female comrade is not interested in you. Gu Yingchang, you are currently single-minded. The revolution is not yet successful, and comrades still need to work hard. Get the hell out of here. Gu Chang'an casually glanced at him, his jaw tense. Last time we assisted the Public Security Bureau in that mission, thanks to her cleverness, we were able to take advantage of it. We can be called temporary comrades fighting side by side. Don't talk about everything about gender relationships. After speaking, Gu Chang'an strode ahead, leaving only a cold figure behind. Yuan Qing touched his chin, always feeling that it was not the case. He shook his head and smiled, but unfortunately caught up with the person in front who seemed to be honest. Chapter 10. Gu Chang'an helps Meng Chun. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Meng Chun, who was in the midst of their discussion, knew nothing and went to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy big white rabbit milk candy. At this time, milk candy was a rare commodity. Meng Chun returned to the courtyard and distributed the milk candy to the cork. Meng Chun coughed lightly and continued to bewitch, Shuozi, don't tell anyone about reporting to the police. Instead, I'll buy you chocolate, foreign goods. There haven't been any children in this courtyard eating it yet. Chocolate. The bolt's eyes lit up, and he stood up straight with a jerk, bowing awkwardly. Don't worry, sir, I will never betray the organization. Meng Chun couldn't help but laugh. Just as she was about to speak, Aunt Yu rushed in anxiously and said, Meng Chun. What are you talking to this child about? You should hurry and take a look. Your sister Meng Erni jumped into the river. Jump into the river. Meng Chun's face changed slightly, and she immediately showed a worried and anxious expression. Aunt Yu, where is it? Take me to take a look. She was locked in by my father just now. Why did she jump into the river? Meng Erni didn't have the courage to jump into the river, there must be hidden secrets inside. Walk and walk, who knows? Your parents just passed by, and she jumped into the moat ahead. The deep water, my goodness. Meng Chun had a bad premonition in her heart as she hurriedly followed Aunt Yu. The moat was just outside this alley, and people came and went nearby. Meng Erni jumped into the river here. What exactly did she want to do? When she and Aunt Yu arrived, the moat had already surrounded a circle of people, making a lot of noise. Meng Chun anxiously squeezed into the crowd and saw that Meng Erni had just been pulled out of the water, drenched all over, and only a little consciousness remained. Hao Hongmei quickly hugged Meng Erni in her arms with a face full of heartache, collapsed on the ground and cried, my daughter's fate is hard. Why can't you think so hard? It's all the fault of that man Chao Xinmin. What does it have to do with you? You were forced, that dog thing ruined your reputation. Isn't it even more satisfying if you died? I have no face to live, let me die. Even if I am forced, no one will believe me. I have no face to live. Meng Erni struggled weakly and wanted to jump into the river, with no sense of survival on her face. Mother, you don't have to worry about me anymore. My daughter is unfilial, so I can only be filial to you in the next life. I believe you. I know you are suffering in your heart, but I can't blame you. As a young girl, you can't resist a big man. Both parents believe you. Old Meng, you have to say something. Hao Hongmei tightly grabbed Meng Erni, her eyes helpless as she looked at Meng Qingshan. Meng Qingshan's unsmiling face was also filled with heartache and guilt at this moment. Father also believes in you. You are a good girl, blame me. If it weren't for me going to the south to build a railway and leaving your orphans and widows at home, how could that beast Chao Xinmin dare to force you? There are also old neighbors who have lived together for more than a decade around, and the water in the moat is cold and piercing. Every year, many people drown, and Meng Erni dares to jump, which shows that she has been wronged and has a strong desire to die. At any rate, it was a human life. I forgot about Meng Erni's madness that day and couldn't bear to persuade her one after another. Old Meng, you went to build the railway to build our society. How can we blame you? If we blame you, we'll blame that beast Chao Xinmin. Everyone knows he's not a good person. Exactly. Erni, being alive is more important than anything else. We all know that you are being forced. Chao Xinmin is not a human. It's not worth dying for such a person. Hurry up and go home with your parents, don't be foolish. Meng Chun looked coldly at her. If she didn't know what the family was up to, she would live in vain. She deliberately made Meng Erni jump into the river to prove her innocence. Meng Qingshan's step was really impressive. Meng Chun closed his eyes and his face was full of heartache. He carefully tugged at Aunt Yu's sleeve and said, "Auntie, Erni is really unlucky. Last time she used my name to be a mistress and was caught, maybe she also had some difficulties. I really misunderstood her." Aunt Yu looked at Meng Chun with a heart-wrenching expression and said angrily, "There's such a hard nut to crack. Who forced her to become a mistress? She's really shameless." Speaking of which, Aunt Yu suddenly exclaimed angrily, "Old Meng, when you come back, you need to take good care of your daughter. Your daughter dared to use Meng Chun's name to flirt with men with a family and family. Even if she was forced this time, she will be punished one by one. Your daughter, this coquettish fox spirit, has been behaving for a long time." Aunt Yu's words almost touched Meng Chun's heart. She secretly gratefully glanced at Aunt Yu and swore to herself that she would never forget her kindness in the future. The words of persuasion around him suddenly stopped, and Meng Qingshan's eyes flashed with a hint of darkness. He quickly reacted and looked at Meng Chun in the crowd. "Xiao Chun, why didn't you tell me so much injustice? There must be a misunderstanding. Your sister couldn't have done such a thing. Your relationship has been the best since childhood." Misunderstanding. Meng Qingshan was really good at speaking, and Meng Chun sneered, "Dad, please tell me what kind of misunderstanding it was, and let my little sister be someone else's third son under my name." They were all knocked on by their daughter-in-law, and she still wanted to smear this kind of thing on me. If I react slowly and get slandered by her, then my reputation will be ruined by her. I don't think you understand your daughter's shameless level in order to say such nonsense. Meng Chun's words immediately left Meng Qingshan speechless. Meng Chun's sharp gaze was fixed on Meng Qingshan, with a mocking expression on his face. "Dad, you haven't been at home for so long. I don't know." Meng Erni thought I was looking at the youngest son of the Chao family. She came in by flipping through the window when no one was around, so that she could go to bed and marry them. Now why have you become forced? These neighbors are not blind, are they? Even if Meng Erni was forced and her neighbors were so close, someone would come out with a shout. No one heard Meng Erni's cry for help from beginning to end. Meng Erni was clearly enjoying it. With so many people present at the time, are you all amnesia now? The neighbors present suddenly remembered the scene from that day, and they all felt a bit embarrassed. They wished they could leave here quickly. Meng Erni's teeth were almost shattered, and she gave a hard look on her face. "It was my obsession that made a mistake. Big sister, I'm going to die now. I know I don't deserve to live in this world. I'll apologize to you if I die. She finished crying and jumped into the river again with a cruel heart. One leg fell into the river and was quickly pulled back by Hao Hongmei. Hao Hongmei's eyes turned red as she looked at Meng Chun with a resentful expression on her face. What have I done wrong to you? You insist on forcing your little sister to die and disrupting this family, and you will be happy. If you want to force me, why do you want to kill my daughter? Meng Qingshan also had a pleading expression on his face. Meng Chun. Can you understand something first? If you have any dissatisfaction, you can tell me privately when you go home. Dad won't make you suffer any injustice, and your little sister can't be stimulated anymore. Please don't make any more fuss. No one expected Meng Erni to jump into the river again. The neighbor, who had been somewhat shaken, looked at Meng Chun in an instant with a slightly different expression. We must spare people and spare them, no matter how hard we try, we cannot force them towards a dead end. Meng Erni couldn't help but feel the pain of not hitting herself with the whip. Seeing Meng Erni's intention to die, everyone couldn't help but show kindness. Meng Chun, listen to your father and understand something. Erni was forced to do this. As a sister, ask her not to be aggressive anymore. Yeah, Xiaochun, you can't empathize or add fuel to the fire. You really want Erni to jump into the river and commit suicide. Meng Chun bit his lower lip tightly, as if he had once again walked into a situation of isolation and helplessness like in his previous life. She won't die. Suddenly hearing the familiar voice of the man, everyone looked over in unison. Meng Chun also turned his head and saw Gu Chang'an standing behind her at some point. Gu Chang'an gave Meng Chun a reassuring look.